Happy birthday, Like a Dragon Gaiden. A year ago today, unless I screwed up the timing, this game graced us all with its presence. It was half a spin-off and half a mainline entry, hence why it was referred to as a side story, which means Gaiden in Japanese. And even though it's supposed to provide some context to events that occurred between the end of Yakuza 6 and the start of Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, it's a fake world with fake characters and therefore they can make up whatever story they want, so they managed to create a completely original story that provides what ends up feeling like missing context for those other games, even though there was never any in the first place. Despite the fact that Infinite Wealth released second, it was basically finished first, meaning that Gaiden was able to take certain things from Infinite Wealth, like the character of Hanawa, or certain technical things like some of the movement animations for a nerdy example. It also meant that this was the first game, and probably the only one, to include a demo for the next game in the original game itself, all because it was able to pull the pretty much completed Infinite Wealth and just chuck a little bit of it into the game. So that means Gaiden had a playable demo of Infinite Wealth 2 months before it came out. Why only 2 months? Well, because the game literally only released 2 months before Infinite Wealth, which was, and probably for a while will be, the biggest RGG game ever made. I've spoken about it at length before, but not only was Gaiden instantly squashed by the game that came out after it, even managing to infiltrate Gaiden itself, but the game also never had a physical release in the West. The English dub was released in a patch post-launch. The marketing made the game seem like it was going to be 30 minutes long, and it was day one on Game Pass, which either means Microsoft knows it's going to get people to sign up, like with Black Ops 6, or it means that the developers have no confidence in the game selling on Xbox, and I can tell you right now that this is not Black Ops 6. So to cut a long story short, this game never really stood a chance to do, like, anything. But did it even deserve a chance in the first place? Well, that's what this video is about. To celebrate Gaiden's birthday, why don't you come along with me to journey through what this game has to offer, examining all of the highlights and the lowlights as each of them occur. We'll start with the very unique title screen with a very striking view of Kiryu and 3 of the actual actors they scanned into the game silhouetted against this light and darkness. And if you'd be so kind, could you start us off by pressing a button for me? This title screen dynamically changes as you navigate the menus, which isn't an entirely unique thing, as Lost Judgment did it first, as well as, obviously many other games doing it as well. But the way they're all posing with the bright colors, especially that super cool streak of red when you hover over the demo, it's just beautiful. It's like looking at my girlfriend. She's beautiful, but she's also not real, because this isn't real, it's a video game. But you know what is real? The game's opening sequence, which I think I'm right in saying that this is the very first time in this series where live action footage isn't just for some minigame or something like that. But from the title screen in this brief opening, you can see the reason why I still stand by the fact that Gaiden is the best looking game in this series. Every game has some sort of color theme. I don't know why RGG love doing it, but they love doing it. Some of them are obvious, like the classic Kiwami 1 and 2 green camera filters over everything. But other times it's just the direction of the light. Like how Lost Judgment has a lot of moments in the afternoon, and so therefore a lot of moments where it is very orange. What does Gaiden do? Well, it has the absurdly sexy mix of red, blue, a bit of green, and black. The touches of these colors on top of things like Kiryu's black suit, black hair, black glasses, or just the darkness of the night, it all makes the game look so good, but it makes the contrast of the castle, which is absolutely coated in color, so extraordinary compared to even the bright and colorful versions of Kamurocho. If you have something to support HDR as well, which technically this was the first game to properly support it, oh my god, it's gonna change your life. But it doesn't matter how pretty a game might be, because if it doesn't have good gameplay, it's not really worth the trouble of playing. Now, mechanically, everything in this game is built off of Lost Judgment, which was technically the previous release, as the Ishin remake at the start of the year wasn't mechanically any newer than the 2014 game it remade. To put it simply, Lost Judgment is like the brain of Gaiden. What I would guess to be the majority of the game files have either of the words Judge or Coyote attached to them. Judge, as you might be able to guess, is the internal name for Judgment, which is what Lost Judgment was built off of. And Coyote is Lost Judgment. Look, I don't know why it's Coyote, but it is. It pulls certain mechanics from those two games, like the fact that you can juggle enemies, and from Lost Judgment, the game has status elements such as Agony, where the victim can't evade, or Bleed, where, well, you bleed. It also takes some visual elements from the combat of both games. Judgment added a cool little thing where there will be a glow that matches the color of your fighting style during what is usually the most powerful part of a heat action. And it also took many of the effects like the beautiful heat auras from Lost Judgment. And overall, while it doesn't have all the same visual effects as Lost Judgment, it still has some of the most flashy and action-packed combat of any of the other games. Why do I make it sound like a bad thing that it doesn't look exactly like Lost Judgment, you're probably not asking? Well, Lost Judgment, as some of you may be aware, is easily my favorite game in this series. It's just such an absurd amount of fun, and everything just looks so freaking cool. If I had to describe Lost Judgment in some clever metaphor, well, let's just say Lost Judgment is like sex. that's it. So at least for me, Gaiden not only being the next release after Lost Judgment, but also stealing most of its code, hits it with some high expectations. Unlike Lost Judgment, this game only has 2 fighting styles as opposed to 3 or 4 if you have the DLC. They consist of the Yakuza style, ripped straight from Yakuza 6 and Kiwami 2's Dragon fighting styles, and the brand new Agent fighting style. Hilariously, Judgment, which also had 2 fighting styles, had a problem where the blue one was useless in almost every situation, and the red one just had a million upgrades that just made it way better. While Gaiden's blue style isn't as bad, the red style is just way better. But after a few battles, you're given the Yakuza style, and it's introduced via a cool cutscene of Kiryu actually taking the stance. In this tutorial, the game pretty much says to you, hey, charge finishes actually work now, we just stole the properties from the Tiger style, so just spam them, who cares. Anyway, after a very short amount of time where you're given the chance to fiddle around with your fighting styles, Gaiden immediately throws you into quite a tough long battle. You don't get access to your full toolkit, nor are you allowed to even unlock most of the upgrades at this point, and you also can't really buy any healing items and can't get any good gear. So this first long battle is quite a tough challenge. Trial by fire, I guess. At least it's a sign of what's to come, as Gaiden is easily one of the more challenging entries in this franchise. Yeah, definitely, I promise. Anyway, shortly after this fight, you're taken to Sotenbori, where about half of the game takes place. You're shown the main method of how you handle side quests, which is such an immensely excellent way to handle them because you actually have to accept every side quest type of thing, and you aren't accidentally forced into one because you stepped within a 100-meter radius of some NPC standing in the middle of the road. In Sotenbori, many of the usual activities from other versions of the map are here, like Mahjong, the golf range, the restaurants, whatever. But there are 2 things they've reintroduced that are beloved by an overwhelming amount of fans, and by overwhelming I mean 1, and it's me. These 2 things are Pool, which they removed in Yakuza 6, and that little triangle park that they removed in Kiwami 2. After being given some freedom to run around, you're taken to the castle, where pretty much the other half of the game takes place. Here you have access to some more quests and minigames, but the big thing is the castle's Colosseum, which features one of the most unique gameplay twists that this franchise has ever seen. Here at this arena, you can pick to actually play as any of the fighters you have recruited. Some of them include characters who were previously playable, with Sajima and Majima from the mainline games and Kaito from the Judgment games, who have unfortunately been dulled down a fair bit, but it's okay because you can play as a staggering amount of other iconic characters like Gary Buster Holmes or Chicken Man from that one minigame in Yakuza Like a Dragon. The cool thing too is that you're not just using these fighting styles that other people have, but you are physically playing as the character. Even if Kiryu has the most amount of versatility and Chicken Man is absurdly broken and you shouldn't use anyone else, it's a lot of fun being able to try out all of these characters however much you want. Now that you've had some time to stuff around with whatever side content you want, fought a bunch of enemies and figured out the controls, learned new abilities and mastered old ones, and got kicked through a window and had a cool boss fight against a real man who's real, you're asked to head back to the castle again. This, to me, was the turning point of the game in many various ways. It's where the story truly starts to change things up. It is actually one of the best story sequences in these games, just ever, in my opinion. You revealed some secrets and given the early stages of your overall goal of the game. And right as your little chat with your new friend ends, you're faced with a bunch of enemies that want to punch you in the face. And as the battle starts, an absolutely sick song kicks in. The fight ends, your ears try their best to calm down after what you've just heard, and your grip loosens on your controller as things start to wind down for 2 seconds until they wind back up again. Now another sick-ass song kicks in, and you're tasked with one thing: get the hell out of there. You race through the castle, taking the shortest route you can back to the helicopter, which ends up being a massively convoluted path thanks to your enemies. You punch some dudes in the face, and then the game's just like, boom, watch this shit. The battle continues as you wind your way through a maze of steel, steam, and angry faces. And then finally you reach the end, and it seems like you've managed to escape. Yet another cool song kicks in as you watch what is not yet the end of this chapter. Now, at this point, you might be thinking that despite raising a few concerns, I've really only talked about all the highlights of the game. I mean, sure, I may think very highly of this game, but I did say that I'd show you the lowlights, right? Well, you've finally reached them. You may have seen people before say how Gaiden was a disappointment, how it's overrated, how it's not worth your time or your money, and they all say that for one very good reason. What? Hang on. I can't seem to find anything. I really can't find any negatives with Like a Dragon Gaiden. I wonder why that is. Jesus Christ, never mind, that was insane. You do that whole epic sequence and it concludes with a sick boss fight? Well, at least I can pretty confidently say that that's where the game picked. Oh my god! What the fuck? Well, that's just the side content, it's always fun. The real factor to determine the true quality of the game would be whether or not the main story just keeps on being good. If it keeps up this trend... Holy shit. Oh my god. Jesus. What? Now, I know that at this point, I've been joking around and whatever and intentionally just glazing the game, but it can't be that good, right? If it was, everyone would be talking about it non-stop. And it's true. Like a Dragon Gaiden, it just wasn't that good. What is that? Do you hear that? Is that a Passionado from Yakuza Like a Dragon? Why would that be? No. No! No, there's no way! Fucking hell, man. I can't handle this game anymore. It's too good. I feel like I've been attacked by a succubus, bro. Far out. It's just impossible. There's no fucking way that this game could be any better. No, stop. This is just the best game RGG have ever made. I just can't possibly even comprehend a world where this game somehow just gets even better. No, you can't do this to me, please. This pig is too high, they can't ever top this now, man, stop! Oh, looks like this fight is finally coming to an end. That's just, no, unless it, well, alright, okay. Yeah, you got a second phase theme too. Holy shit. How can a human even come up with something this brilliant? This is just fantastic. Fuck. At least that's it. The game's over. They can't somehow manage to make it even better and pull something in the last minute and...